had $700,000 in our bank account, and it's currently zero. We've called the bank, and they said they can't help us. The only thing they can tell us is that you need to call this Detective Carter. And he said, well, I don't normally tell anybody this on the phone, but you have 2 felonies out for your arrest, and the U.S. Marshals have been dispatched to your house. I ended up leaving the house because I couldn't think. I could not think. And I went over to the family farm just to kind of regroup my thoughts. Her dad, I got out of the car, and we must have called ahead. He kind of knew what was going on a little bit, and he got up my face and he said, he was dead serious this time, said, Tyler, I always told you, there's nothing online besides crooks and perverts. He was dead serious. He was so mad at me, like I let the family down. And I just kept on thinking, like, I just need to find the best attorney. I don't know what's going on, but you know, it's Brunswick County, North Carolina. We got to find an attorney there that's going to represent us, because that's where everything's going to happen. And started calling around, and you can't get an attorney on the phone on the moment. Like, you don't think about it until you actually need one, and that's why I'm calling. Everybody's calling. We can't get anybody on the line. And then finally, somebody answered one of my calls, and they said, I've been in your position before, and I didn't even tell them what it was. I didn't even know what it was, right? But somebody helped me out, and I wanted to help you out. And he said, do you think you're guilty or you're innocent? Because I have this white-collar worker, or a white-collar attorney if you're innocent, and I got this blue-collar if you think you might be guilty. I said, well, I don't think I did anything. Like, I'm a full-time pharmacist, and technically I'm liable for any of my employees, but I'm not aware I did anything wrong. So they said, okay, well, here's this guy. His name's Woody White, and let me do you a favor. Let me see if I can call him and get him on the phone. So he did, and I had 10 minutes with Woody White, and like 15 minutes later, just gave him some basic information. I didn't know anything about what was wrong, and after that phone call, I went back to the house. I went back to be arrested. Like, that was my thought. My wife and I went back to the house, and we were waiting for the marshals to show up. Some people had talked to my family, said, we know Sheriff Brenneman, who's the sheriff at the time. We know who, he goes to our church, and that's the church I went to, so we kind of know him too. It's like, let's call him and see what he says. And we called the sheriff, and he said, well, any orders for the marshals to come to your house, they'd have to come through our office. I haven't heard anything yet. If somebody shows up at your door, give me a call, and I want to make sure we're aware. So got off the phone. He called right back, and he said, well, while we're on the phone, they were on hold, and that was the U.S. Marshals. And normally what happens would be, we'd form a mile perimeter radius of your house. We'd give you one chance to answer the door, and then we'd break down your door. Because I know your family, we'll give you a courtesy. We need you to turn yourself in 1 hour at the sheriff's office. So I had an hour, and you kind of don't think about, what it's like to go to jail. I had to call back twice. The one question I called back for is like, what do you wear? Like, do I wear some nice dress clothes, or do I wear, jeans and a white T-shirt? What am I bringing? And I remember settling on, I had jeans, a T-shirt. I had a small picture of my wife and my daughter, and a small Bible, and just drive myself to jail. And show up, they call me back, and then I'm sitting across from the sheriff, and he actually presents the charges. And maybe we get into that a little bit later about what those were, but our team had done some work overnight, and we kind of narrowed down to what we thought might be, some orders or some transactions that might be, things that somebody might have had a problem with. So we had narrowed it down. We thought that this might be the case of somebody that had an issue with an order, and I was within, at that point, maybe a minute away from getting handcuffs. And I asked one more question. I said, hey, do you think you can call down to the Brunswick County Sheriff Office and ask if I could turn myself in? And he said, well, as a courtesy for the family, I'll call And they answered the phone. He started talking. He did no sales technique to start off with. He said, I already know the answer. So it was like he just knew the answer was going to be no. But to his surprise, the detective answered the phone, and he had a little bit of hesitancy in his voice. Even though he was referring to me, to everybody else, as Bernie Madoff, number 2, he had a little bit of hesitancy. And then the sheriff Brenneman said, I do know his family, and if he doesn't get down there and turn himself in by tomorrow at noon, he'll have more things to deal with here. So I just remember how happy and overjoyed I was that I could add the next basically 18 hours to spend with my daughter and my wife while I drove myself down. That was such a relief. And they asked if they wanted me to go. I was like, well, if I'm getting a visit down there, I want to see my wife and I want to see my kids. So yes, I want you to go. So we started the drive, drove through the night, got down there that next morning around 4 o'clock in the morning, didn't sleep at all. And the plan was to go to our attorney's, Woody White's office, then go over to the sheriff's office and turn ourselves in. And thankfully, this really high power attorney in the area, when we walked in there, it was obvious that he had dropped everything that he had on his agenda that day before, mid-afternoon, night, after he got my phone call. He had dropped everything. And he had worked the case and knew exactly what was going on. And he said, hey, I got a favor from the district attorney's office, and we're gonna have you go in there and tell the story.